Hi everyone. So I wanted to talk a little more about lists. Now lists are something I think we've maybe mentioned a few times in passing, and maybe you've seen a little bit on a live stream here or there, but we don't really have a video dedicated to them, so I wanted to talk a little bit about them. Lists are important, but they're not big enough to maybe spend a whole week on, because lists are pretty self-explanatory, right? It's a list. Most of us know what a list is. A list is just a list of things. Sometimes in a numerical order, so like 1, 2, 3. A grocery list you've probably seen, maybe all your favorite video games that you want to get, or a list of your favorite blocks in Minecraft. If anyone asks you, hey, what are your top 3 anything, you just made a list, because it's your top 3. You have to list 3 things. So, lists here work exactly the same. So let's say that we wanted to make a list. How do we do that? Well, first, like a drone, we have to make a variable that the list goes inside. So we would just make it named list. It can be named anything. And then we would go into lists. And we've got 2 options here. We've got create an empty list, which will create just a blank list with nothing in it. So that would be like if I asked you to make a list and all you did was name it, but you haven't yet written anything in it. Or we can do a create list with, which allows you to enter things in here as well as create more entries or take away entries. So let's just use this block to start so that we can start building our list immediately. So we want to create a list, and you can create a list that contains anything. So it can contain all text blocks, all numbers, all entities. It can contain text blocks, entities, and numbers. You can mix and match. So let's say we want to have a list that has a text block that says hi, a number that is 10, and an entity pig. All right, cool. We just made our very first list. Now, there are also a few things you can do once you have a list. You can add entries to the list, and you can also get entries from the list. Now, lists all work in numerical order. So imagine this guy's the first thing in the list, this is the second, the third, and they have that number attached to it. So this is number 1, and this is number 2, and this is number 3. That's going to make sense in just a second. So when we go over to lists, we want to scroll down to in list set number blank as blank. This block will allow us to add new things to the list. So let's say I wanted to replace hi with bye. I wanted to overwrite this entry in the list with something new. So I could use the set option right here. If you click it, you see there's set and insert at. I'll get to insert in just a second. So in list, so this must match the name of that variable that you set. Number blank as blank. So here you put the number of the entry that you want to replace. So remember, this is 1, this is 2, this is 3, etc., etc. So we want to replace entry 1 just with a text block that says bye. So now hi is gone. We have just inserted, sorry, we haven't inserted. We've just set hi as bye. So it's no longer hi, it's now bye. Perfect. Now let's say we want to get that entry in the list so that we can send a message of whatever it is. So if we go into send message, we can go into lists, and now right above that set block is the get block. So in list, we can now get whatever number we place in here, and of course we want to get 1 to see what it says. So not only is there get, but there's also get and remove and just remove. So if you wanted to remove an entry in the list, if you wanted to get it and then remove it, you could do that as well. All right, so number 1. All right, so what this should send us is not hi, but bye. Because we first create the list with hi in our number 1 entry, then we set our number 1 entry to bye, and then we get our number 1 entry. So it should be bye. Let's mod it. Let's get the mod. Oops. Yep, see, it says bye. All right, so that's using set, but we can use insert at to do something a little different. So instead of replacing hi, what this is going to do is this is going to insert bye at the number 1 position and then move hi up to the number 2. it will move this up to the number 3, and will move this up to the number 4. So it's not really replacing anything, but it's just, imagine it, moving it at the position that you say and pushing everything back 1. So now if we insert by at 1, we can send ourselves a message of the second entry, and no longer should that second entry be 10, it should instead be high. Just to make that as clear as possible, let's also get the third entry, and let's see what this looks like. All right, let's do times a thing. See, it says by, then high, then 10. So even though we created the list with high as the first entry, when we inserted by at 1, it pushed everything back. Now, what if we inserted by at 2? So what that would look like is it would still be high, then it would be by, and then it would push 10 and pig down. So, yeah, look just like that. Cool. All right, so you've got insert at, and you've also got get, remove, and remove. Now, you don't have to always put a number. Here we've got number and then number from end. So 2 from end, that would be 1, 2. First is just the very first entry. Last is the very last entry. And random is random, which is very exciting. So what are lists good for? Well, let's do a very specific example. Let's say we want to make a creature list. So let's rename this creature list. And this is going to have a bunch of different creatures on it. And so we can create new entries by clicking that gearbox and dragging these into here. So we want to have a pig and then 4 more. Let's say we want the pig to be the only friendly one. So we want to have zombies. We want to have wither. We want to have a, where's a creeper? Where is creeper? We want to have a creeper, and we want to have a spider. Spider, cool. So we have now just created a list that has a bunch of enemies in it. And we want to, whenever we run the mod, to randomly pick one of these and spawn it at our location. How do we do that? Well, of course, we can use a drone to spawn a mob. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a drone. Okay. And then we're going to have it spawn a mob of type. And now going back to the lists, we're going to get in list. It's no longer called list, it's called creature list. So I'm going to do in creature list get number. We just want to put this to random. So now every time we run it, this is going to select a random one from here and spawn it. So let's see what that looks like. So creeper, wither, pig, wither, wither. Oh God, pig. Wither was a bad idea. Jeez Louise. Oh man, this is really bad. And don't worry about that text over there. That's just from another mod. So let's do butcher. Can I do that? Okay, yay, they're all gone. Awesome. So that's one way that you can use a list. Another cool thing that you can use with lists is a certain type of loop. So if you go into loop, you can use this for each item I in list blank block. So what this does is this goes through each item in the list one at a time, and then performs whatever code you put in here performs whatever code you put in there with I. So I is each entry in the list. So if we set the list to creature list, which is this list, we could spawn every creature in the list by doing drone spawns mob of type I. So remember, I is each entry in the list in turn. So it does this, that's one version of the loop, then it does that, then it's another, then it's that, then it's that, then it's that. So let's look at that instead. And look, it spawned all of our guys at once. So what it did is it's called iterating. It iterated through the loop. At each entry, it made each entry, it put it inside a variable named I, and then it spawned it right here. All right, so that's a little crash course on lists. Maybe try using them in your mod. They're good for a bunch of different things. Maybe different, like random welcome messages. Really, the world right now is your oyster using lists.